In 2003, the Cold War is over, and Happy Valley is thriving with the Mars 7 Alliance. The team successfully attempts to tow asteroid XF Kronos, with Grigory Kuznetsov becoming the first to make contact with it. Meanwhile, Margot Madison, now under the alias Margaret Reynolds, wakes up in Moscow and learns of the accomplishment. Miles Dale is preparing for a job interview with Helios Aerospace, hoping it will save his marriage. Despite Amanda's doubts, Miles remains optimistic. He later gets a job offer for a Mars mission. As the Kronos towing operation begins, disaster strikes, cables break, and Kuznetsov's leg is crushed while a space worker, Tom Parker, is killed. Kuznetsov urges Ed Baldwin to leave him behind to save the mission. Ed complies and Kuznetsov drifts off into space, leading to grief at mission control. Danielle Poole learns of the tragedy during a birthday party, while Margot hears about it in Moscow. She tries to investigate, but is shut out. Later, Poole is asked to come out of retirement to replace the Happy Valley commander, and she agrees in honor of Kuznetsov. Amanda, concerned about Miles going to Mars, pleads with him, but he reassures her. Poole eventually joins the spaceship Unity, heading for Mars, while Ed reflects on his family, smoking marijuana. The new Mars crew, including Miles Dale, arrives on the Red Planet and gets acquainted with their quarters beneath the surface. Miles discovers a photo of Tom Parker, who died in the previous mission, on his bunk. Danielle Poole reunites with Ed Baldwin, and they reflect on the loss of Grigory Kuznetsov. Poole later gives a speech honoring Kuznetsov and encourages teamwork. Back on Earth, Aleida Diaz's husband, Victor, expresses concern for her mental health, urging her to seek therapy or return to work. At Happy Valley, the crew experiences poor communication with their families, causing frustration. Kelly Baldwin demonstrates a robotics breakthrough for finding microbial life, but funding hinges on the success of the asteroid mining program. Meanwhile, Poole suggests a mission to repair a damaged satellite, despite Baldwin's hesitation. She uses her authority to order the mission, which ultimately succeeds. Aleida visits NASA but struggles with PTSD and resigns. She later meets Kelly, and they bond over drinks, discussing their professional challenges. Miles, disappointed with his paycheck and feeling trapped in a dead-end role, is invited to an underground bar by a coworker. Kelly, after a rough night, wakes up at Aleida's and discusses leaving NASA to pursue private funding for her microbial life research. In Moscow, Margot Madison witnesses civil unrest as citizens demand the whereabouts of Mikhail Gorbachev. She gets caught in the chaos but manages to escape. Margot Madison and Artem are imprisoned during a Soviet coup d'etat led by Fyodor Korzhenko. Worldwide, including on Happy Valley, the coup sparks condemnation. President Al Gore denounces it, while Roscosmos goes silent. Danielle Poole prioritizes Soviet communications, and Svetlana Zakharova worries about her father's silence. Aleida Rosales and Kelly Baldwin struggle to fund their Seeker project, facing rejections from private aerospace companies, including Dev Iesa, who feels betrayed and distrusts others. Kelly accuses him of losing his passion for discovery. Miles Dale, facing financial issues, begins working for Ilya Breshov. Using his access to restricted areas, Miles excels at smuggling and impresses Ilya. A mishap with equipment pushes Miles to steal a part from the North Korean zone, where he's caught by Lee Young-gil. Lee agrees to keep quiet in exchange for a favor. Ed Baldwin and Svetlana train for Ranger 1, but Ed hides hand tremors while Svetlana opens up about her pain. Ed shares his secret weed garden, confessing his condition. Margot endures brutal interrogations about a mysterious phone number tied to KGB counterintelligence. Colonel Vitor Kolokov eventually spares her life and transfers her elsewhere. Dev Iesa regains control of Helios through a hostile takeover, ousting dissenters and reigniting his Mars ambitions. Meanwhile, Bill Strausser reluctantly helps Aleida by signing over shares. Miles' smuggling operation grows as Le Young-gil asks for his wife's retrieval. Margot is relocated, meeting Irina Morozova, who reveals that Korzhenko is now Soviet president and offers Margot a position at Roscosmos. On the surface of Mars, cosmonaut Svetlana Zakharova and Helios worker Vasily Galkin argue about the Soviet Union's direction. Galkin accuses Zakharova of treason, leading to a fight where his suit is punctured and he is placed in a hyperbaric chamber. Danielle Poole confines Zakharova to base for 60 sols, but Zakharova reveals she has been recalled to face trial in Russia. Poole and Ed Baldwin decide to prevent this, as they fear she will not receive a fair trial. NASA's Eli Hobson tries to negotiate with Roscosmos head Irina Morozova, but she insists that the M7 treaty allows Russia to recall Zakharova. Meanwhile, Margot Madison attends high-level meetings at Roscosmos, where she uncovers that an error in the Kronos disaster was due to a conversion issue between imperial and metric measurements, though it was hidden from reports. Margot assists Tatiana Volkova with a calculation error and later confronts Morozova with the truth about the Kronos disaster. At Happy Valley, tensions rise as Soviet controllers reset the base's systems to Cyrillic. Helios workers complain about Poole's handling of Zakharova, while Miles Dale schemes to smuggle Martian rocks. His plan backfires when he falls into a fissure on Mars and is rescued by Samantha Massey. Eventually, Hobson brokers a deal for Zakharova to be tried in India. Poole informs Baldwin, leading to a heated argument where Poole accuses Baldwin of defending flawed individuals like Gordo and Danny. Zakharova prepares to leave Mars, kissing Baldwin goodbye, and Baldwin insists on escorting her despite the risks. The Thomas Paine Space Telescope discovers a valuable asteroid, 2003 LC, nicknamed Goldilocks, worth $20 trillion in Iridium, sparking global interest. President Gore prioritized capturing it for re-election, while the Soviets feel threatened as major Iridium exporters. Helios also aims to exploit its monetary value. Danielle Poole leads mission preparations, but clashes with Ed Baldwin over strategy and crew decisions, further strained by Ed's undisclosed hand tremors. On Earth, Dev Iesa secretly plans a Mars mission, leaving Elida Rosales in charge at Helios. Despite initial resistance, Kelly Baldwin agrees to join Dev, arranging to bring her son, Alex, to Mars. Dev's strained relationship with his mother adds emotional depth. Flashbacks reveal earlier hardships at Happy Valley Liwela, including Danny's efforts to help a North Korean defector, Danny Stevens, who tragically took his own life after isolation. This past influences present tensions between Danny and Ed, culminating in Danny revoking Ed's flight status due to his health and disagreements. Miles Dale continues his smuggling work with Ilya Breshov, earning enough to improve his family's situation but risking exposure. He faces moral challenges, especially after failing to retrieve Lee Young-gil's wife. On the political front, Gore's false claim of credit for the asteroid discovery creates tension with the Soviets. Diplomatic fallout leads to a summit in the Soviet Union, further complicating international collaboration on the asteroid capture. In July 2003, a summit is held in Leningrad W to discuss capturing and mining the Goldilocks asteroid. Margot Madison secretly feeds information to Irina Morozova, who represents Roscosmos. Meanwhile, on Happy Valley, Edward Baldwin struggles with idleness, but breaks tension by bonding with Helios workers. At the summit, Eli Hobson, the US representative, claims they can begin asteroid capture in 8 weeks. Helios's Elida Rosales, however, emphasizes the need for costly new infrastructure. While many delegates are discouraged by the expenses, Elida argues the asteroid's value is worth the investment. Back on Happy Valley, Palmer James and Danielle Poole debate the feasibility of the mission. Tensions rise as workers, led by Samantha Massey, discuss unionization in response to increased demands and risks. Irina meets with Eli and Elida, but Margot's covert information to Irina leads to mistakes. A discussion arises about diverting the asteroid to Earth's orbit rather than Mars, with Margot continuing to guide Irina. Margot eventually meets with Elida directly, revealing her survival. Though Elida initially reacts emotionally, the two soon begin discussing asteroid solutions. Meanwhile, tensions on Happy Valley escalate as workers, led by Ed, move towards unionizing and striking due to reduced bonuses. In the end, Margot publicly announces her defection to the Soviet Union and takes responsibility for the asteroid project, leaving Elida watching in silence. On Mars, Helios workers strike to demand the asteroid Goldilocks be mined in Martian orbit rather than Earth's. The cryo plant, essential for refining fuel, is offline, leaving the mission at risk. On Earth, Irina suggests that Mars' M7 team handle fuel refining themselves. The Helios strikers sabotage this plan by dumping the base's spacesuits outside. M7 decides to access the cryo plant through gray water pipes. At Star City, Irina pressures Margot to represent Roscosmos in Houston, despite Margot's reluctance. Meanwhile, Elida vents her frustrations about Margot's return during a chaotic TV interview. Dev, Kelly, and her son Alex arrive at Happy Valley. Tensions rise as Ed meets his grandson, who avoids him. Danny confronts Dev about the strike, but he withholds his plans. The M7 team works to restart the cryo plant, but faces dangerous malfunctions. Despite warnings, Nick Jennings bypasses safety measures, leading to an explosion. In the aftermath, Dmitri struggles to treat injured workers. Eli and US officials discuss deploying a security force, ultimately deputizing experienced personnel on Mars. Danny's team searches Helios quarters, causing further tension. Dev ends the strike by offering $1 million to the first 100 workers who return to work. Most cross the line, leaving Ed and a few others defiant. Ed criticizes Dev for killing Mars, but Dev argues greed exposed the workers' motivations and proposes Ed help him steal the asteroid to secure Mars's future. Back on Earth, Margot arrives at the Cobb Space Center amidst protests, preparing to navigate tense negotiations. Sergei Nikolov, now living in Iowa under the alias Sergei Bezukov and working as a high school physics teacher, is shocked when he sees Margot Madison's defection speech on TV. His wife, Muriel, is unaware of his past with Margot, and they discuss her survival and defection. Sergei later learns Margot will return to Houston as part of the Goldilocks mission, which distracts him at work. One day, he impulsively drives south, leaving his routine behind. At Happy Valley, Miles Dale still runs his bar and smuggling operation, while Ed Baldwin and Samantha Massey talk about Dev Ayesa. Ed encourages Samantha to meet with Dev, despite her reservations. Meanwhile, security checks tighten on base, and the lower levels are sealed off in retaliation for a strike. Ed and Dev are also focused on the mission to capture the Goldilocks asteroid, which requires careful coordination between Earth and Happy Valley, with Ranger's trajectory needing adjustments. Margot is busy at the Cobb Space Center, where she meets Eli Hobson and discusses the mission with NASA, Helios, and the M7. At Happy Valley, Commander Danielle Poole briefs her crew, while Dev secretly plans to hijack the mission by manipulating the asteroid's path. He wants to extend Ranger's burn time, ensuring the asteroid is slowed enough to fall into Mars's orbit. Dev's team, including Ed, Samantha, and others, begins planning how to alter the mission's communication system to execute the change. Samantha, initially unsure of her role, is convinced to stay on the mission after Dev ensures her place on the crew. She plans to use Miles' smuggling network to obtain necessary hardware for the fake communication system. Meanwhile, Margot struggles with personal issues, including a strained relationship with Elida Rosales, who is still hurt by Margot's actions in the past. At Happy Valley, Ed spends time with his son Alex, whom he has agreed to care for, while Kelly Baldwin is on a mission. After Alex helps retrieve a crucial piece of equipment, Ed praises him for his bravery. The team also continues preparations for the mission, while tensions rise as the plan to steal the asteroid gains momentum. In a tense meeting, Sergei warns Margot of the danger she faces, revealing that her KGB handler is Irina Morozova. Despite Sergei's warning, Margot insists they have both moved on and must part ways. Meanwhile, the crew on Ranger prepares for the mission, with Samantha facing the difficult task of executing the conspiracy. In the lower levels of Happy Valley, Ghost Ops grows frustrated with Samantha Massey for not replacing the discriminator box despite having a month to do so. Aboard Ranger, the crew rehearses the Goldilocks mission's final burn, aiming to capture an asteroid and redirect it around Mars. Samantha secretly sabotages the box with water, frying it without arousing suspicion. When the malfunction is discovered, she steps up to install a modified box that enables communication with Ghost Ops. At Happy Valley, Kelly Baldwin discusses the Seeker mission's methane findings with Dev Ayesa, but he's distracted, playing with her son Alex. Dev expresses interest in her finding life on Mars, but Kelly grows wary of his collaboration with her father, Ed Baldwin. Meanwhile, Ed and Miles Dale conspire with Lee Young-gil to access the North Korean surveillance feed. After some convincing, Lee agrees, providing Ghost Ops with access. They confirm Samantha has replaced the box and send a successful test ping to Ranger. At Cobb Space Center, Aleida Rosales grows impatient with delays in the Goldilocks mission. Margot Madison asks for help with the mission trajectories, discreetly passing a note to Sergei Nikolov. Meanwhile, in the North Korean sector, Commander Cho Byung-ho discovers a NASA surveillance device. He demands answers, but Danielle Poole deflects, promising to trace the device after the mission. Cho suspects Miles Dale and orders his arrest. Danielle instead assigns KGB agent Timur Avilov and CIA agent Mike Bishop to investigate. Danny sends a video message to her son Isaiah, reflecting on becoming a grandmother. Elsewhere, Sergei and Margot discuss plans to move to Brazil and assist its space program. Aleida and Margot reminisce about old times, while Eli Hobson reviews a report on stolen equipment, suspecting a deeper conspiracy. Cho, inspecting the elevator Miles used, discovers tampering. Timur and Mike interrogate Miles about the theft, but he denies involvement. Cho continues investigating the lower levels, encountering Ghost Ops. Lee knocks him unconscious to protect their mission. Later, Sergei and Margot return to their lodgings, but Sergei is tragically assassinated, his death staged as a suicide. 2 months earlier, Helios engineer Frank Tuttle uncovers a North Korean pistol on Mars during a geological mission and hides it at Happy Valley. Meanwhile, on the spacecraft Ranger, Commander Ravi Vaswani and crew prepare for a crucial burn to slow the asteroid Goldilocks using their plasma engines for a gravity assist around Mars. Tensions rise as Dev Ayesa communicates with Ghost Ops, ordering them to send their own authentication for the final burn. Outside, Lee Jung-gil and his team face conflict over whether to take North Korean commander Cho Byung-ho to the medical bay, leading to a fatal decision. Miles Dale is tortured by KGB and CIA agents, but refuses to talk. At Cobb Space Center, Margot Madison is shaken by the arrival of Roscosmos director Irina Morozova. Margot warns Sergei Nikolov to leave Houston, but Aleida Rosales discovers Sergei's death, which hits Margot hard. Meanwhile, the security team at Happy Valley uncovers Tuttle's pistol and begins a sweeping search. Aleida tries to force Sergei to leave, but is devastated when she learns of his suicide. As the final burn nears, Samantha Massey is sent on a risky EVA to override the spacecraft's engine controls. During the burn, she struggles against Palmer James, who tries to stop her. With help from the North Korean sector, the override is successful, but not before Palmer is caught in the exhaust. Back at Mission Control, Margot admits to a restart code, taking the fall for the sabotage, leading to her arrest. Back on Earth, the stolen asteroid remains in Mars orbit, while tensions escalate. Danielle Baldwin is accidentally shot during a fight at the North Korean sector, and Margot faces legal consequences. The season concludes with Dev overseeing a new era of mining on Mars, with Goldilocks now in orbit.